Aloha, everybody. Welcome to the Hawaiiverse podcast, a podcast that supports local by wishing the only negative thing about your year is your COVID test. I'm your host, Kamehameha, and we have another great guest for our episode today. Before we introduce her, let me tell you about this week's local business giveaway. Every time an episode comes out, we pair it with a giveaway to a local business, and this week's giveaway is from Temple Brand, a Kauai-based brand rooted in timeless style and modern outdoor adventure with a distinct island twist. They're giving away 2 sunglasses valued at $140, one men's and one women's. And the cool thing is, these glasses, they float in the water. So check them out. Head to Hawaiiverse on Instagram and enter to win. Who doesn't like free stuff, right? Okay, let's introduce our guest because I am excited to test my political knowledge. Our guest today is a Native-Hawaiian Samoan wahine from the island of Oahu. She is a music teacher, a politician, a wife, and mother to 2 children. She is a graduate of BYU-Provo and just recently got her PhD in music from the University of Hawaiʻi. In a world where conformity is so ingrained in us, she is not afraid to stand out. Her name is Andria Tupola. Aloha, Andria. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Aloha, Kamaka. I'm doing great.
Yeah, mahalo for joining us today. I'm super excited for this episode because it's going to be a little different than how we usually do these episodes. And it's crazy to think, like 3-4 years ago, I probably would never want to talk about politics. I always wanted to stay out of it, always try to be neutral. But with so many things happening these days, it's hard not to get involved and it's hard not to be affected by all the decisions being made throughout these last couple of years, right? So I'm excited to hear your opinion, and the podcast is a place where you can express whatever you want with no judgment and just speak freely. So don't hold back.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so before we get into everything, I just want to know where you from, where you grad, what was it like growing up?
Okay, well, I was born in Kahuku. I was raised in Hawaii. I graduated Kamehameha schools, and yeah, I grew up on the island of Oahu. Loved it.
Yeah, what kind of things did you do? Were you always into academics? Were you more into sports?
So my mom is a music teacher, so I played piano since I was 4, and I play the flute. And
okay.
I also sing. My mom directs choir, so we had to sing in all of her choirs growing up.
Yeah.
My dad was a lawyer for a while, a public defender, and then he became a family court judge. And so we didn't do too many legal or government related things. We actually really didn't even know what our father did when we were growing up. We knew he helped families. That's all we knew. And I was really interested in sports. I played basketball. I have 3 brothers.
You got the height.
Yeah, all the boys, they always wanted to play sports. So I was the girl playing basketball in a dress and playing football with all of their friends. So yeah, I loved it. I really loved growing up in Hawaii, and it really helped me to build who I am today.
Mm-hmm. So you grew up with brothers?
3 of them.
3, and you're the only girl?
Yes.
No wonder you're so tough, right? You just, whatever people say to you, it just bounces right off. You don't care what people think, right?
There is this thing that happens when you have all brothers where you got to have thick skin and you got to be ready to just hold your ground.
Yeah, you also said you got hit in the eye with a baseball bat when you were like 8th grade, right? So that really toughens you up too, right? Or blinds you, I don't know.
Yeah, we played intramurals at New Valley Intermediate, and the area we were playing didn't have a backstop. So the guy that was up to bat, he was really good. We were so excited he was going to hit a home run, and he just let the bat fly, hit me in the eye, split my eye open. So I have stitches across my right eye. And I did think that I was going to lose my sight, but really I was okay. And I was actually the Mayday Queen for the school, which was a couple months later after I got hit. And yeah, I just wore the hakulo.
That's funny.
It was fine.
Just disguise it. That's awesome. So, how did you get into politics? So you graduated from Kamehameha, right? With honors.
Yes.
I read that.
And I was a song contest director.
Director. Very impressive. And then where did you go after that?
So I got into BYU. I started to study music there. And then shortly before I graduated, I had 1 year left. I decided to serve a mission for my church. So I went to Venezuela. And in Venezuela is where I learned a little bit more about politics, government, what type of philosophies govern entire nations. And it was a very, very eye-opening experience.
Mm-hmm. So that's your first kind of taste of politics. You weren't necessarily in politics, but you just saw how the country was ran, and that kind of grew your interest?
Yeah, I was 23, so I was a little clueless to how laws or governments could really infect communities, states, and countries. But then when I lived there, you really have to be political to live in Venezuela. That's how you survive. So they were practicing socialism. The president was Hugo Chavez, and they're giving free things to the lowest socioeconomic class. So you could get free housing, free medical, free education, of which I thought it was interesting because I was like, okay, well, that's a lot of free stuff. But it also started to change the temperament of the people because there wasn't really this push to have like really strong work ethic, because the harder you worked, the more was taken from you from the government. So people kind of didn't strive to work as hard because they knew eventually that they would be penalized for it. So,
and you mean like taxes?
Yeah,
okay.
taxes. And so I did see how they didn't like Americans in the country, and I did see how a lot of the laws were enforced through military in the streets, which was different for me. Watching people walk around with guns all the time was different.
Yeah.
And riots in the street was different. Lawlessness was very different to me. I got to the country, I arrived in Caracas, and then when I got out of the airport, there was like 4 lanes on the ground, but 6 lanes of traffic. People were walking through the highways, which was super dangerous. We got to Valencia, which was the first city I lived in, and nobody obeyed the stoplights. I was told they were all just suggestions. And so that kind of chaos, it kind of breeds itself when there really is this dictatorship, this enforcement through military. So
that's so interesting, because when you were talking about that, it reminded me about my time in Peace Corps Madagascar. I was in Madagascar for 3 years, and I joined when I was 23 as well. And that's when I started to get more into politics, just because living there, right? Your mind is open up, your eyes are opened up to new things, and like everything going on. You're like, whoa, why are people just walking between all these cars? Why are there no stop signs? People can really just like steal all things all the time, pickpocket you. And it's crazy to live in that kind of Is Venezuela a developing country?
I mean, like it's like
it's kind of in the middle,
third world country. I mean, I don't know really where it's at now, but yeah, it's near Colombia and.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you have that perspective, and I'm guessing you were able to take that and bring it in back to Hawaii with you, and that helped you with going into politics.
Well, I came back to Hawaii and I had this strong belief that we need to empower ourselves. We need to be independent of the government. We need to not rely on government. We need to have our own thoughts about how to teach our children, because a lot of the education was ingraining thought processes in the people, right? So I had this really strong belief when I came back that we needed to be strong enough to be self-sufficient, and our communities should be the ones making decisions and not governments that are thousands of miles away from where the decisions are made. So yeah, I was aware. And during that time in 2012, when the presidential election was happening, there were a few guys from Venezuela that were advising presidential candidates. Lots of people talking about socialism because it was just so awesome to talk about free stuff. But
exactly,
yeah, the effects of what happened is what people don't know until you live in the situation.
Yeah, and it's funny, when you're growing up, when you're young, you're just like, free things. That sounds so awesome. I'm a socialist because I want all these free things, but then you don't realize how that affects the other things, the ripple effects of that. And I didn't even realize that until maybe 2 years ago, when my friend was telling me like, oh, really? You want all these free things? Oh, you want higher taxes? You want all these other things? And I'm just like, you have a good point there. So I started to look more into it, and then I realized, okay, maybe socialism isn't the best thing.
Well, I think the phrase is nothing's ever free.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so interesting. And I think it's the cool thing about growing up in politics. I feel like it's okay to change your stance on things at times, but I think people, they get so comfortable where they're at and so stuck in like, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. So, and then everything that is said that goes against your ideologies, you just totally ignore it, or you're just against it, right? But people don't listen to each side of it. And I feel like that's the problem in these times right now. Nobody wants to listen to the other side, even though there could be a lot of similarities, right?
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of partisan is already divisive.
Yeah.
So I think that even for somebody like me, perhaps, I ran as a Republican, but maybe some of my thoughts are not. Maybe somebody who's a Democrat doesn't have entire thoughts that are entirely enclosed in what their ideologies are. So that kind of begs the question, which is, how do you just be true to yourself and the needs of your community without feeling beholden to parties that you may align with 90% of what they believe and maybe you're 10% out of it? Can you still serve? Are you still being true to yourself? So I agree with you that perhaps your perspective changes over time. I would say that for me, my perspective has broadened.
I like that.
Yeah, because I don't think that I've changed as much as I have grown my base of intelligence of understanding the cause and effect of decisions. Policy decisions and what we do as public policy over time, as you try to understand what you want versus how it's implemented and then how it impacts the community. Those are the kind of things that I've learned over these 8 years of being in government.
That's interesting. So you were a music teacher.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just ended up getting into politics. I feel like that's not really a common thing, right? I could be wrong. Can you maybe tell us what happened?
Yeah. So in 2012, I did help a presidential candidate because I was opposed to a lot of the socialist platforms and proposals. And then after that person ended up not being successful, I just asked around and said, okay, where are all the places that I can contribute and positively impact my community? And people said, you should run for office. I was like, ooh, I don't know.
Intimidating, right?
Yeah. Well, I was just like, should I? I mean, my kids were like 2 and 3 years old. So I was like, I should run for PTA, I think. I think just in my mindset, I had a small family. I was really just looking to volunteer, just help.
Yeah.
And then I just started to explore, right? So I started to go to luncheons, to meetings, and I didn't really know if I was Democrat or Republican. I really didn't know what any of that was. I didn't know what a legislator was. I just wanted to help my community. So when people talked to me about running as a representative, I had to think about, what does that mean? What would I run as? So I was living in Waianae. And so people said, where are you going to run? I said, I'm going to run in Waianae. And they said, where are you from? I said, I'm from Hawaii.
Oh, they probably gave you looks, right? How's this HK girl just trying to run in Waianae?
He said it, HK, whoop. So yeah, that was a problem. They said, what political party are you going to run under? I said, I'm going to run as a Republican. That was a problem. They said, do you have any political connections? Have you ever fundraised? I said, no, which that was a problem.
Wow.
So I don't know. With all of the issues with me not having the perfect background, it didn't change the fact that I felt inside of me like it was the right thing to do. So I just did it. I just went out there and I started to do what I knew how to do, which is talk to people and hear what their concerns are. So I remember I went to one of the doors on a street and the lady was like, what's your platform? And I had never even heard of that word before. So I was like, what's a platform?
Instagram?
And she was like, what are you going to do for the community? And I was fairly new. So we moved to Waianae in 2010. And I ran in 2014. So 4 years. So she said, what are you going to do for the community? And then, of course, my question to her was, what do you think I should do for the community? And she said, oh, well, great. I'm glad you asked. So then she gave me this list and I was like writing it down, right? I was learning. I remember on one street, I knocked the door and the lady's like, where's your blazer? Where's your lei? I was like, what is that? She said, you're supposed to wear a coat. I was like, I don't even have a coat. I was wearing a t-shirt and a hat. I mean, I don't know any better. I was just wearing shorts. I mean, Waianae's hot. I was like, I'm not going to dress up to walk down the street. Why are you going to wear one lei for? So I guess my whole thought of politics I had to develop as I went. And so, yeah, I just talked to more people and wrote down information. I built a database. I created a team. I started to get out there and raise money. We made banners. I made mailers. I wanted people to know my message, which was really simple, which I just wanted to empower the community to make their own decisions. And then I won my first time.
Nice. Were you not afraid of losing? Because I feel like you were fighting an uphill battle. You're from Hawaii, running in Waianae. You're running as a Republican in a very democratic state. All these things going against you. You have no political experience. You've never fundraised money before. Were you not afraid of losing?
Yeah, I don't think that crossed my mind. Yeah, I don't think I was running to win or lose. Yeah, I was running because I felt something inside of me tell me to do this. When the person who asked me to run asked me the question, I remember I was about to say my next best joke. And then I felt this prompting tell me to be quiet. And
right in your right.
Yeah, like I
Spoke to
felt
you.
something say, be quiet and listen. And so I started to listen to what it meant to run. And then I started to get this feeling like you're supposed to do it and you're supposed to do it now. So I guess in my mind, there was no like, oh, this is going to be so scared I might lose. I was just like, I got to do this now. Wherever that leads me is wherever it leads me, but I got to do this now. And that was 8 years ago when I had that feeling, and then I ran for office, not even knowing where we'd be at today, which we're in a significantly different place than where we were at in 2014 when I ran.
Yeah. What do you think drew people to you? Well, was it because you were local, because you weren't afraid to speak your mind? What do you think it was?
Well, I'm biased because I'm me, but I mean, I would just say probably my ability to just be normal, I guess. I mean, when people talk to me, they can talk to me wherever, you know? You can talk to me on the soccer field, you can talk to me at Sack and Save, you can talk to me at your street. Like this morning I was running, people, you know, Andrea, I want to talk to you. Like, you can talk to me wherever. Like, I'm going to listen and I'm going to take into consideration what you're saying, what I can do to help. I think my whole mindset is just service. So that's why I never had a platform. Because in my mind, if you already have your own agenda, then you're not going to do what the people want. So I kind of have a blank slate. And I was like, you tell me where I can serve. So my whole MO as a legislator is just serve the community. How can you serve the community? And sometimes it's draining, but for me, it's very fulfilling that my vision for the community, and this was my vision statement when I first ran, I had it on my wall at the legislature. Our vision is to serve the people of District 43 by rolling up our sleeves, going the extra mile, and staying committed to love our community. And everyone who worked for me, I was like, look at that wall. That's what we're doing. If you're doing anything else besides that, you're not supposed to work here. So we just focused on that. And I think that's how people just really knew who I was and gave me a chance. Like, I'll be honest, they had to give me a chance, right? Because they was like, who's this girl?
Yeah, right. Well, I love that you said in the beginning that you asked people what they wanted. You didn't just assume. You didn't come in with your own political agenda. So for us Peace Corps volunteers, when we get to our country, they tell us we have to do a community survey, right? Because I could come in and be like, I want to build a basketball court. I want to do all this and that. But maybe they don't need that, right? So we just always assume what other people want. But being able to kind of step back, humble yourself, control your excitement, your enthusiasm, and just ask people, hey, what do we need in the community? And listen to them. And that's the key word, listening. Because I feel like a lot of people don't listen to others. And they don't, or maybe they just hear the words like, hey, we need to fix the roads. There's a lot of potholes. And then, does it ever get fixed? Sometimes. Slowly.
I think that was my music background too. As a choir teacher, I have to listen to voices, right? So I have to make sure altos are here, sopranos are there, bass is too heavy, tenors singing the wrong note. So as a choir teacher, I'm always fine-tuning voices. I'm blending them. I'm making sure they're emphasizing the right notes at the right time. So I just applied that to how I led my community. So when I had town halls, I would be quiet because I'm listening. Are they angry? Are they happy? Are they frustrated? Are they giving me suggestions? Do they have better ideas than I have? Have they already tried the 10 suggestions I had and we have to try a new route? So as people talk, I'm listening a lot because that's what's crafting the path forward on how to create the change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You also speak very well and are very articulate. And I like that. When I was looking back on the debates between you and Ige back in 2018, because Andrea ran for governor, if you didn't know this, back in 2018.
I did.
I wasn't here. I was in Madagascar. Probably would have voted for you. But I wasn't here. So what was that time like, running for governor, going from so little experiences to like I guess you could say it's the biggest stage in Hawaii, right?
Yeah, it
Running
is.
for governor.
Right. So who the heck is in the legislature for 4 years, is 37 years old, and goes,
crazy.
I'm running for governor.
This auntie from Waianae, or serving Waianae.
Look, this girl picking up trash. Now she thinks she's going to run for governor. I don't know. When I worked at the legislature, I remember distinctly having this impression that we did not have enough of a bench. So I didn't have the right players. I didn't have the right game plan. I didn't have, so I thought immediately in my head, like, we got to recruit. we got to go recruit, because I'm looking around at all my coworkers, and sure, some of them I get along good with. I think they're good people, but do we have the people that are going to have the same vision that I do to make Hawaii an affordable place for generations to come? No. So I thought, okay, Andrea, you're good at this. You know people. Go out and recruit. Teach people how to be good candidates, how to, serve their community. It wasn't that easy. Once I started talking to people about running for office, it's like asking them to sacrifice their first baby. They're like, whoa, I wouldn't run for office. It's a very daunting decision to make, and it's a very sacrificial decision, because you would have to sacrifice your time, your career, your money, and basically go into debt to go do this thing that you feel is so good. Mm-hmm. So I immediately thought the best way for me to do this is to run for governor, because we need a better leader. We're not going the right way. But also, as I run for governor, look for other leaders and then help to empower others that want to do this. I've always said this. This path is not unique to me. This path is for many people. And if I have to cut the path, I will cut it. But I know there are many people that will come after me. And I hope that I'm going to leave the legacy for them to follow and the vision for them to get to the end goal, right? So I ran for governor. I was 37. I was a woman. I was the first Native-Hawaiian
at the time, right?
Yeah, and the only
Native-Hawaiian.
Yeah, there's just all these things that I think when you said all these factors against you, I don't know what else could be up against me besides all of those things, right? Mm-hmm. So I just started doing what I do, which is going around, talking to people, seeing if I could build this infrastructure. And it was tough. I raised $500,000. I ended with about 33% overall against David Ige, who was the opponent at the time. I was also running against his re-election, which was really hard, because now he's served for 4 years. He has quite a bit of donors. He has quite a bit of credibility, and he had served in the legislature many, many years. And there are some things that I learned along the way that just you can't cram. There are some things in life maybe you can cram. Running for governor, building relationships, you can't cram that. You really have to be in for the long haul. You have to say, I'm committed to serving Hawaii and getting it to where it needs to be, no matter how many years that's going to take. And so that whole experience for me was probably the most eye-opening, learning, horrific experience I've ever been through. My whole family was dragged through it. My husband, my kids, like everything, And so I definitely would do it again. Like, it wasn't so horrific that I wouldn't do it again. But I think if I stepped in it again, I know exactly where my deficiencies are, where I would need to improve in order for me to know that I would be stepping in it to win it.
So that was your biggest takeaway from that whole experience?
Yeah.
Yeah. What not to do?
What not to do, but I think I had made so many good bridges and so many good relationships that it helped me to set the stage for where I was going, right? Mm-hmm. So even though sometimes your path looks like perhaps it didn't go the way that you wanted to, it could be that it was the right thing for you to learn at that time. For me and for my tenacity, that's how I needed to learn. God knew already that I'm just like Fiopoto. In Samoan, that means you think you know everything. I have this thing about like just, okay, yeah, I know. And I learn a lot through experience, yeah? So I had to experience it. No one could have said, Andrea, this is what it feels like to run for governor. No one could have done it. I had to go through it, and then I had to be like, oh, that's what it means.
Yeah, because even when you think you know, a lot of times you don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah. And the best teacher is just life. Experience. I truly believe that. Do you know when the last Republican governor was elected in Hawaii?
Yeah, Linda Lingle, 2002.
2002. I remember her. Yeah, I was very young at that time. What do you think changed so much, or how did Hawaii become so blue, so democratic? Was it always like that? I don't really know the political history. I know the history, like we were overthrown and all that stuff. So, but
yeah, I would say at the very beginning that the leadership that was coming out prior to Hawaii becoming a state, there was a lot of Republican thoughts. I mean, Prince Kuhio was a Republican, and he was our congressman at the time. And I think for Hawaiians and for him at the time, and you can read a lot of what he's written about what he did. For him, the thought was to be independent, right? Is for us to become a nation that can support itself, can provide housing for the Hawaiian people. So in my mind, that's still where I'm at. Like some of the thoughts he had are still some of the thoughts I had about republicanism. I would say, shortly after statehood, then there was this turn towards really supporting labor. Those who were working here, making sure to represent unions, making sure to represent people that were blue collar workers, needing support, less of the admin and more of the grassroots. So I think that turn, in Hawaii was significant, meaning like it was a huge movement because we had pineapple fields back then, sugarcane fields, like it was a big deal to support workers. And I think that the pendulum always swings, no matter if you like it or not, it always does, right? So how many years can something stay the same for how long? And then how many years does it take for it to move back to where it was? And then does it ever kind of get to the middle? So, my belief is that there will come a time for change and that I'm preparing for that. But it's daunting, because when I was in the legislature, there was 8 of us that were Republican. They went on to 5. I believe there's 4 now in the state house and there's 1 in the Senate. Will there ever be more? Maybe. During Linda Lingo's time, there's 19 Republicans, but that's still small out of 51. But at the end of the day, I still believe that the purpose of what I'm doing, the message of what I'm sharing, and the vision and the people that are gravitating towards me, this is all still necessary. No matter if we can get this state balanced or not, we still need to move towards that direction so that future generations of Hawaii residents can depend on and know that the leaders that were elected were making decisions with that priority in mind.
This is a personal opinion. I think we need more locals and like real native Hawaiians in office. I think that's the biggest thing. Somebody that people can relate to.
Oh yeah.
Like a lot of these people being elected, and I'm not trying to talk bad about Governor Ige or anybody, but what group are they in? Like, you don't see them in the community. You don't see them hanging out with the uncles, the aunties on the side of the road, talking to people. You don't see that. Why can't we get somebody like, okay, Barack Obama? I'm not saying he's a good president, but I'm saying somebody like Barack Obama where he's like
personable.
Personable. Yes, exactly. Great speaker. Just a fun guy, but also maybe if we just combine that, if we could just make our own perfect governor or president, we could do that, right? That's not realistic, of course, but something like that. But somebody that we can relate to, somebody that goes to the sports events, somebody that is in the community with our keiki. That's what we need, and that's what I want for Hawaii. And I just don't. My whole life, I haven't seen that.
Well, I think 2 things. One is that we don't have term limits. That's a problem. So a lot of people can stay in office till umpteenth year. One of my colleagues was in for 42 years. 2 of my colleagues were in their 80s when they were in my caucus. And that is what it is. That's a law that should be proposed to be changed. And perhaps that cycle of new representatives and new elected officials will come. The second thing is that even for people like me, it's very daunting to think of all the things you have going on. Your mortgage to pay, your kids going to school, the sports program. On top of everything, how do you still run for office? People ask me that all the time. How are you a mom and still like able to do all of these things? And that's one of the conversations that I've had with people that I thought had the right characteristics, right? Just like you're saying, people that are personable, relatable, they know community issues. Then when I approach them about running for office, they're just like, whoa, I don't have time for that. Like, that's our family doesn't want to do that. And that whole unrelatability is something that I'm trying to change, because the more people see me lead and how I lead, they're like, oh, that's what it means. I'm like, yeah, this is what it means. It doesn't mean you have to dress up in a fancy suit and know law. I mean, I really don't know the law very well, but I'm trying to teach myself how to read a bill, teach myself how to interpret law, because that's my job right now. And I think if you apply yourself, I think you could do it if you ask your family for support. I mean, I think you could do it together as Ohana,
I believe it. And I just think we need people who aren't career politicians, people who are just local, people who want to make a difference just like you. And I think there's a wind of change coming along.
Yes, Kamaka, say it.
Yes. Maybe I'm just manifesting it. But I really do feel like people are starting to wake up and people are over everything going on. People are just getting sick, especially the younger generation, and we are the future. We're the ones who are going to be in your position in a few years. And somebody listening to this maybe around my age could be the future governor of Hawaii one day. So I'm just I don't even know what to say.
100%.
Yeah,
Well, I would say that when you say people are tired of this, I would say you're probably referring to our generation, mine, yours, the ones upcoming. Because I can say that when I ran for governor, I do know a handful of people that are not over this. And so that's the unfortunate part, right? Is that when I ran at my age, at the time, was Hawaii ready for my type of leadership? No. Are they ready for it today in 2022? I would say no still. Can we get to the point where this next generation upcoming is ready for this type of leadership? Sure.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. But I just feel like at times you feel really helpless, right? Like it seems so simple to us, where I have no idea what it's like to pass a bill or, to go over all these policies. I know it's probably way harder than we think, and it takes a whole team and there's levels of it. So, but just as a citizen, it's very depressing. I don't know. I didn't want to use that word, but it really is, because it's like, how come for so long nothing has changed? How come Hawaiians still get the short end of the stick? How come X, Y, and Z, And it just feels like nothing changed. And it's always the same cycle of, okay, we vote for this person. We don't like this person. A new person comes in thinking, we're going to think, oh, this is the person. Same thing happens. And we don't like that person. And then we just start talking crap about that person. Like everything going on right now. So it's this same vicious cycle. What do you think is going to change? It's just time?
I would say, for whatever reason, the word investment is coming into my mind. The path I'm on, you have to invest time into it. You have to invest heart into it. You have to invest sometimes finances into it to say like, hey, I want to create this path where we can have better leaders, where we can have a Hawaii where more local families can live here. But I would say that very few people that I have come across that are a little disgruntled want to invest that time with me. So when people talk to me and they're like, oh, you're the change. Yeah, let's do this. I always have to ask them, are you going to fight with me? Are you going to go ahead and like shoulder to shoulder with me so we can get there? Because I need team members. Everyone who's on this path that's trying to create change, we need to understand that without one another, we won't get there. I just met with a social media influencer who's around your age, maybe younger, but I asked him the same question because he wanted to connect with me about how impressed he was that I'm asking questions that other people aren't asking. And then I asked him, I said, I'm in it for the long haul. Are you? He was like, yeah. I was like, because this is a long path. But if you want to dedicate and invest your time and your energy now, we could get there. But we need people to stay committed to the path. Not like, 1-2 years. Oh, sheesh, I'm so tired. So tired of doing this. It's not going to be 1 or 2 years. I've been in this for 8 years and I'm trying to steadily make differences. So I think for me, that's where the change is going to happen, is when people feel disgruntled, I'm able to hear their concerns and then help them to go where they can have purpose. And then I find the gap, I fill the gap. I find the gap, I fill the gap. If people want, one of my friends said, I really want to contribute to the community. Well, one of my friends in Pearl City is running for office. Do you want to go help his campaign? Sure, I'd love to help his campaign. I'm trying to connect up good people so that we can all help one another.
Connections. That's what I call them. We gotta connect the community and build these connections. Because it's so much stronger than these surface level connections. When you connect as Kanaka, it hits differently.
It does.
So that's my goal with the podcast, with everything that I'm doing, is to build these connections. Real quick before we get into Instagram questions, I want to kind of break down some stereotypes, some stigmas of Republican and Democrat. So if you're Republican, a lot of people think you automatically support all Republicans. For example, Donald Trump, he was a Republican, right? So being a Republican, does that mean, you automatically support Donald Trump and you go against Biden? Or is it more certain policies that you support over the person or ideologies?
I would say that it applies to candidates, but it also applies to the party. So when I was running for governor, people would ask me if I support the Republican Party stances, because they were making their own stances, right? Then do I support the decisions of Donald Trump because he was making his own decisions, sometimes independent of the party, right? And then they would ask me, other Republicans, okay, so Linda Lingle did this, so are you going to do that too? one group in Anahola and Kauai, they actually took me aside and said, we were about to build this whole center for us to empower our own homestead, and they took it away from us. And they actually were afraid that because she was Republican and she did that if I ever got elected, I would do that to a homestead. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that had happened. And so I think the idea here is that, one, everybody who runs for office has their independent thoughts, independent decisions. Sometimes it's influenced by their values, ideology, and parties. Sometimes it's not. So I think asking me, do you support X policy that so-and-so made? If so, yes or no. I think that's valid, because then I can actually articulate myself and say, yeah, sure, I don't agree with that for these reasons. But I don't think there's ever going to be a person you meet in your life where you're going to 100% agree with everything they say. I haven't met anyone. Yeah. Not even my husband.
That's a good point. Yeah, I just feel you can't be on the fence, or you can't be neutral, right? If you're neutral, then you're choosing one side, or there's a quote, I think, by Martin Luther King: if you're indifferent in the something, you're... I should have wrote it down, but it just came to my head. But look it up. It's like you're choosing the side of the oppressor or something like that. But because I feel like automatically, if you say, I don't like Biden, so that means you automatically like Trump. I don't like vaccine mandates, that means you're anti-vax. It's like if you don't support one thing, then you're opposed to the other thing.
The word you're looking for is it's polarizing.
Polarizing.
Because what he's asking is, if there's a middle ground and you are not this, then people automatically polarize you to the opposite. So then you must be this.
Yeah.
Incorrect.
And we live in a society that's highly polarized with very low trust in the government.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not working. And we'll get into all of this later, like vaccine mandates and propaganda. But I want to go into Instagram questions real quick. But mahalo for answering the other question. This one comes from Victor.Loucus, Loucs. Loucus. He wants to know, do you support increased walkability and public transportation within our infrastructure, given the economic mobility and physical health benefits of those changes?
Well, I would say I'm a super community-minded person. So I think my first step would be meet with the community, see what their needs are, see how we can address it. So case in point, this morning, I went running. I'm on Pa'akea Road, which I clean that road a lot. We ended up making a small little walking path so that the farmers and the kupuna in the area could exercise. So there are some people like, oh, this is gentrification. By the way, gentrification means that affluent businesses and homes are located into a neighborhood and then they rise the value of it. Now, putting a sidewalk in the back roads of Maili is not gentrification. These guys actually have never had an area to exercise. And on top of it, they've never really had an area that was safe because there's bus stops out there too. So I would say for me, that would be one of the answers to his question, which was, is there an area for people to walk safely, catch bus safely, exercise safely? Well, in that community, the answer was no. So we actually had to hui together the community to end up laying that so that people could start to exercise and for their own health, get out there. And of course, it's good socially because now the whole community gets to see each other every morning. The kupuna are out there every morning, every afternoon, talking stories and sharing their life with one another. I mean, it makes me happy to see my community get active.
I love that. It's interesting that America, quote unquote, is a country that doesn't walk a lot compared to other places like Europe, South America.
When I lived in South America, we walked everywhere. I lost so much weight because if you have money, you have to pay for the bus. And usually we didn't have enough money to eat. So we'd have to be like, are we going to eat or ride the bus? So then we would walk so we could conserve money to eat.
Yeah, and same in Madagascar. I didn't want to pay for a taxi, so we just walk all the time. And plus, some places aren't accessible by car anyway, so you just have to walk. Or bike. Yeah. So it would be cool if we I guess I was going to say it's so beautiful to walk outside, but it also is really hot. So there's also that part. So I remember going to UH and finishing a class, you put on your backpack, walk to class. By the time you get there, you're all sweaty. You got the backpack imprint, the sweat imprint on the back.
I guess I would take that over the snow any day. I had to walk through the snow to get to class for 5 years at BYU. It was the worst.
That sounds crazy. When I was in Argentina studying abroad once, I did not know anything about layering. Everybody had to help me. They're like, hey, you put a jacket on top another jacket?
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't make any sense. It feels so uncomfortable, but I guess there's ways to do it where it's cozy. But yeah, that was a shock to me. All right, let's ask this question right now because we got a couple people that asked it. Kaui Kiala Kainani and Kio.mele says, simple question. Will you ever pursue running for governor again in the near future? / will you be running for governor?
Yes. So I don't know when. It's not this year. I'm not running in 2022 for a lot of different reasons. I'm holding a seat. That's a 4-year seat. I'm going to stay committed to my community since I got elected to do this for 4 years. And I'm somebody that keeps my word.
Oh, that's rare.
Well, even prior to being a elected official, that's been my thing. Like, even if I tell people I'm going to show up, even if I have to like kill myself or drag my kids with me to be there, like I will show up. So I think also just this whole path that I'm on in order for me to win the governorship, once I ran it, I realized that it would take me longer to be able to win it. So I feel like as I prepare and as I see it formatting that it's time for me to run, I'm going to know.
So you'll know when you know.
And I can tell you it's not now, but yeah, I'm going to know.
Well, that makes my decision easy. I like to stay neutral and unbiased. So it's easy for me to not say I'm going to vote for you live on the podcast.
I'm not running this year, so you don't have to say
I'm neutral. I don't support anybody. Okay, 2 more. Michele Halelu 33 wants to know, do we have a good core of viable conservative candidates to rally around? If so, who are they? I think she is one of them, but who are the others?
So this upcoming election, I know Brenton Ava has
yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, so he's going to be running on the North Shore. I believe as a Republican. I am helping a candidate running for city council. His name is Keone Simon. I do know also Val Okimoto is going to be running for that same seat. She's a Republican representative right now. There are a handful of others that I've kind of heard here and there. I did meet with Judge Bisson, who's running for mayor. He's in Maui. I don't think he's Republican or Democrat, but I'm always interested in candidates that are running that are kind of underdogs or new, just to see if the path they're on is the same path I'm on. So I can't say there's a huge amount. I mean, I've helped Diamond Garcia in the past. Dave Alcos has run as a Republican in Eva. I've helped Dave before. I heard Bob McDermott is going to be seeking a congressional seat. I'm not sure if that's a thing, but then somebody will run in that Eva Beach seat, guarantee, as a Republican. I do believe there's going to be a new Makakilo district on the west side. And so that'll be an empty seat. I'm hoping a good conservative candidate gets put in there. So yeah, my radar is always on. I also have to acknowledge my own bandwidth and limitation thereof. So I am helping one person this year. In the past, I've helped like 5 or 6, which really spreads me thin. But I do think that part of who I am is to help others reach their full potential.
Cool. Well, I'm going to support anybody who supports Hawaii and the people. I don't really care about the bipartisan party.
Right.
If they want to support us and they're the best candidate, whether they're Democrat or Republican, I'm going to support them. So that's just me personally. Okay, last one. SF_photos_Hawaii wants to know, end mask mandates, ?
Yeah, I think the article I saw come out this morning said that the Department of Education will be continuing the mask mandate despite ending mask mandates across the nation.
Yeah, I think, there's like 2 states left that hasn't ended, and we're one of them, or are we the last one? I remember seeing a graph.
You could be right on being second to last or last to still have it. I'm super concerned about the fact that kids are wearing it. I absolutely do not like that my girls have to wear it to play sports. I just don't think it's healthy. I think dirty, sweaty masks, and of course they encourage them to switch it out, but still yet. Is that really the best idea to have kids that are playing sports that are not sick, that are not contagious, wear masks for what? So I just think that those are the kind of questions we have to ask. So instead of just erring on the side of caution, what are we being cautious of? I remember a day when you sneeze, when you have Hanabata, then you're sick. Now in the world we live in, you could be sick if you don't show me a paper that says you're not sick. How is that possible? I'm not sick.
Yeah.
It's
Very
crazy
good
to
point.
me.
Well, I just watched the Mililani versus Kailua boys basketball OIA championship at my neighbor's cousin was playing. And it just, nothing makes sense because they say everybody has to wear a mask and they're making the kids wear a mask, but they're wearing it under their chin. It's not even covering their face. So is it just for looks? Are we just going through the motions? Like, what's the point of it? Why are these mask mandates out there when, first of all, if you think it protects people, if you believe the science, which recently, I don't know how recent it came out that cloth masks aren't even effective, right? And I don't know how many times the government, Fauci, all them flip-flop between that. But what's the point of trying to keep them safe by wearing masks when they're not even wearing it properly?
Well, and in other states where they're not wearing masks, are they of a different breed than us? They have different DNA than us that they can have sports games and amusement and be near each other, but we can't. So, I mean, I think the questions are valid, but remember, policies are made by policy makers. So be careful who you choose to elect.
Oh, politicians. Somebody else used this word, pilauticians. I'm not going to coin it. And I'm not saying all politicians are pilauticians, but that's just what somebody said. Going back to the mask wearing, it's so crazy how, to me, brainwashed people are from all the propaganda, what they see on TV, and how the media has pushed this narrative of this is the most deadly thing ever. If you don't wear a mask, it's gonna kill you. And they're having people wear masks outdoors for some reason, which I don't understand. I'm not opposed to wearing masks. Like, if I'll follow the rules. If I have to go in the store and that's the rules, I'll wear a mask. I'm not gonna, ku'e, whatever. But like wearing it outdoors, I see people walking by themselves wearing a mask outdoor. I see people driving in cars by themselves wearing a mask. And I just want to shout at them, hey, take that mask off. There's no point of it.
Breathe the air.
There's no point. Yes, breathe our air. We need fresh air. And it's crazy. Like, with these lockdowns in the beginning, they're having us stay at home, not get fresh air. And that's just making people more sick. So since the beginning, I was always very skeptical of everything that was going on because a lot of it just doesn't make sense.
Well, you got to ask yourself how much of this is actually training you to be mentally restricted. So there are physical things they're asking you to do, the mask, the gatherings, but how many of these things are affecting the way that you mentally process? Because now you can't think without a mandate. You can't critically decide without someone telling you what to do. That's what happened in Venezuela. You're at the point where everything you do, how you move, where you go is dictated by the government. You should be able to critically think and make decisions for yourself based upon the best amount of information for you and your family. That's what you should be able to do. Mm-hmm. I actually went to a game room recently, or an escape room here in Hawaii, and the girl was like, I need a test. And I had my test. So I said, here it is. She goes, we don't accept the at-home ones. I was like, okay, but per the county laws, they allow for this. But I'm going to get in trouble. I said, who are you going to get in trouble from? She's like, I don't know, but I'm going to get in trouble. And the worst part is that in the escape room was just me and my family. I was like, we only one family unit. We live in a house together. No one else is going to be with us. But it concerned me that she could not critically think through it, that she had to call her boss to ask. We have to be able to critically think through simple things, through complex things, and be able to use our own judgment and then have our own consequences. That's what life is about. And I feel like this is straying from it because now people are relying on the government to tell them how to think, what to do. We should never, ever allow that to happen to ourselves and our families.
Yeah. And everybody listening to this, I'm pretty sure you're here in America where we have so many freedoms. We have the freedom of choice, freedom of speech, all these other things. I mean, maybe not as much as we think these days, but we have these. And in developing countries, what people know as third world countries, they are so restricted, like what Andria said. When I was in Madagascar, women aren't allowed to do certain things, or if they do, they're looked down upon. In a lot of countries, like, women aren't allowed to wear certain things. People aren't allowed to do a lot of the things that we're able to do. So where what's the opposite of progressive?
Regressing?
We're regressing. We're regressing. We're a developed nation, and we're going so far back, especially as here in Hawaii, as locals, as Kanaka. We're all the progress that we've made over these years. We're just taking so many steps back with everything going on.
Well, and it was interesting because
sucks.
El Salvador, which I think Ecuador as well, they both had packs, COVID packs that they were giving out. And this had vitamins, this had medicine, this had instructions on how to keep yourself healthy. And then boom, they're dispersing it. But over here, they're telling you there's no way to save yourself. You just go inside your house and then you pray you don't die.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird to me because I think that, like you said, in a progressed nation that is at the point we're at with medicine, with this, why then is there not any remedy? Why then is there no recourse to make yourself healthy if you get sick? There is. You're just not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah. They're trying to silence everybody. And I think that's the government trying to control everybody, especially with vaccine mandates. And we can talk about that. I am super kahako on the U, super opposed to vaccine mandates because it makes no sense, and it's just causing this divisiveness and discrimination, segregation of all the people, and especially local families. Like I'm affected more because my sister-in-law and brother, they could lose their jobs. My sister-in-law works for Hawaiian. She just got terminated because she didn't want to take the vaccine. They denied her religious exemption. They didn't even, they sent a letter saying, here's your last paycheck. She's been with them for 13 years. 13 years. She's on the video that you see when you go on the airplane. She's in that.
Velina Mai.
Yeah, and it's so crazy that because of this mandate, they're just like, she can't work because she's unvaccinated. It's so heavy. It really makes me upset, and I'm so sad because I have a niece. You know, she's gonna be 2 years old this year, and her parents could be out of jobs. You know, perfectly healthy, hardworking people just fired because they want to exercise their freedom of choice, right? And it's crazy that there could be 300 unvaccinated passengers on an airplane, but we can't have an unvaccinated worker who can just test positive for COVID. Where all these unvaccinated or vaccinated people could go on the plane without taking a COVID test. They could have it. They could be carrying it asymptomatically or not. Maybe they just have some sniffles, but they're just ignoring it, right? And they can fly. They can travel. They can do whatever they want, but the workers cannot. How heavy is that? Shame on you, Hawaiian Airlines.
Well, and
say that publicly.
It's sad because all the years of dedication, and this is what many Hawaiian Airlines employees have told me that got fired. Does our sacrifice mean nothing? Does our dedication to this company mean nothing? Do you not care about our families? You know? So I get it that there's this policy they're trying to make, but to not have a way to accommodate so that you can care for the people who have cared for your company over all these years. Like, that's again where I feel like we have to be able to make better decisions based on our values. If somebody at Hawaiian Airlines valued the people who worked for them and said, we were going to fight for them because we are a family, would there have been a different decision? Maybe. So I feel very badly for what happened there.
Yeah. Again, I don't know how many times we're going to say this, but it makes no sense. But it's really just because of the media pushing out one side of the story. That's all it is. Like you were talking about treatments. How come in the beginning of the pandemic, how come they only pushed out vaccines? And I'm not against vaccine. You know, half of my family took it, half didn't. But why are you forcing people to do something that they don't want to do? If you're, say you believe in abortion is a choice, but you don't, but you support mandates. Well, the hypocrisy of that alone, like it doesn't make any sense. And it just keeps happening and happening. All the lies from the media. I mean, in the beginning, there's videos of President Biden and Fauci saying, "Hey, if you take the vaccine, you're not gonna get COVID. You're not gonna get COVID." I am not paraphrasing. This is what they said. There's videos of it. So people took the vaccine. not knowing that they could spread it, probably spread it to everybody. It just kept growing and spreading, but blaming the unvaccinated people. And that's because of the media. The media started to demonize everybody, say, hey, get vaccinated, save your kupuna, save lives. You know, where there, for example, there could be a perfectly healthy person, like my brother and sister-in-law, take care of their body, exercise daily, don't drink, don't smoke, take their vitamins, zinc, B12, whatever it is. They don't take the vaccine, they're looked at as villains. You could have a overweight 300-pound guy, doesn't eat healthy, goes out, parties, goes to the bars, whatever, takes the vaccine, and he's looked as a hero. How messed up is that?
Yeah, it's the perception that they have created, and it's divided families, and it's definitely making good people the bad guys. They're making evil good, good evil. I think for me, the concept of forced choices is not just one of control, but it's also training people to not be able to think and then face the consequence. So that's the whole thing, like what you brought about with choice, and there's consequences for your decision, but allowing people to make those decisions, and then whether it's good or bad, you know, there's always going to be an outcome. Was the outcome good? Was the outcome bad? What did you learn from it? How did you strengthen your mind through that? How are you going to better make your decisions moving forward? It's what life is about. So I really feel like this whole thing that people are doing, or even supporting, forcing people, it's so dangerous. It's dangerous to think that one day you wouldn't be able to think through something because you've been forced your whole life and you don't know why. Explaining to my community why I'm doing things, how I'm doing things, who it's going to affect. I am required to do that. I am supposed to be transparent about that. So if the government is forcing you to do things, but they're not explaining why, it doesn't make any logical sense. There's not even like correct pockets of populations that it's being applied to. You have to ask the why. I mean, if you don't know the why of what you're doing and why people are forcing you to do it, you really need to rethink things. You know, and I tell my kids this all the time. I was like, you need to make your own choices. You need to listen to what I'm saying. Don't listen to the radio, the other things, all these commercials, what people are saying. Listen to what your mom is saying. I was like, you guys got to be able to make decisions for yourself. And they can ask me questions and I answer it. But I'm trying to teach my children the right way to weigh out decisions, because the world is teaching them something else. I'm worried about what the world's teaching them.
Yeah. No, it's hard with the social pressures as well. I mean, if you don't get vaccinated, you can't go eat at restaurants. You can't do this. I mean, unless you have a negative COVID test. And even I feel bad for the kids who don't really understand what's going on, but their parents are telling them, don't take the vaccine. And then there's other kids at school thinking like, oh, this person doesn't take the vaccine, so they're bad. They're unpure. You know?
Or
and
even
they're going to get teased and bullied.
Even restricting, you know, because there's a conversation about Kamehameha song contests, about graduation, about having the students be vaccinated or not participate. So then a lot of people are making decisions because they feel forced into it. So even though no one forced you, they're going to exclude you from participating. So is it forced? I mean, kind of.
No, it's just like, hey, I'm holding up a gun to your head. Drink this shaka tea. If you don't, I'll kill you. I'm not forcing you.
You don't have to drink it.
But I will shoot you if you don't drink it.
I just feel like
so crazy.
I feel bad because these decisions that young kids, families are trying to make, some of them are for the betterment of their family. I had a lady call me crying that her husband was going to get cut from the job site, of which that was the whole income for their family, if he didn't get vaccinated, but he had a heart murmur. He had a heart condition. He was not allowed to take some of the vaccines because he could die from it. And she said, I went to the doctor and asked if they could help me with the medical exemption. No one will write it. She said, they will not write it for me. They said they're not going to help anybody like that. So in situations where you have these cases, because everyone's different, everyone's unique, how do we help and support people who have these situations and be mindful that there's lots of different ways to get to the end goal? Because I thought the end goal was stay healthy. I thought. Because if the end goal is everyone be healthy, there's lots of paths towards health. But they're saying there's only one path now to get there.
Yeah, and that doesn't make sense. Everything's not a cookie cutter solution. If people want to concentrate on their immune system and, mitigate situations. Like, maybe I won't catch COVID if I don't go clubbing with all these other people. Or, maybe I'll just exercise each day and I'll take my vitamins, all that thing. It just sucks that nobody is truly questioning it. And if you try to talk to people about this, they get really defensive or they get on edge and they don't want to talk about it. And these are the things we need to talk about. We have to be able to question it. If we can't question science, that's not science, right?
It's what they say. Science is based off of inquisition.
But apparently not. Science is based off of Fauci now. Science is based off of whatever the White House says, whatever CNN, NBC, all these things say. And what saddens me is like, how do people not realize it? Or maybe it's just, ignorance is bliss, right? If you don't think about it too much, you just keep living your life, you conform, you're agreeable, and then you just, you're going to avoid confrontation, you're going to avoid uncomfortable situations. But I think for someone like you and I, where we lived in uncomfortable situations, right? We lived abroad where we always had to figure out how to get through things and question, like, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? And kind of really practice critical thinking, right? And I think maybe people don't have a broad perspective of everything, of the world. Maybe they're just so comfortable with just listening. Not even listening, being instructed what to do. That's kind of how the education system is, right?
Right.
You go to school, you're not allowed to question the teacher. You just nod your head, you do your homework, you turn it in, you graduate, and then what now, right? Well, you go to college again.
There's a school here, a charter school called SEEKS, which is seeking and examining essential questions for school. And the whole school system, it's a charter school, is based on questions. Mm-hmm. So these kids came to the Capitol, and I remember it was night and day compared to other school groups that had come to talk to me, because every kid had like 7 questions for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of questions. But they're taught at school that that's how they're going to learn, is if they're able to ask questions. Mm-hmm. So when other school groups would come and just be like, crickets, do you guys have any questions? But that's the thing though, right? Is like the way that you're taught, the way you're brought up. And there is some like little bit of conflicting with the Polynesian culture where you're really not supposed to ask questions sometimes. Right? Yeah. And I think that's where sometimes I am not as Polynesian in my the way I comport myself, because I do ask questions at the right times in a respectful manner.
Yes, exactly.
Not disrespectfully. But I think last year when this whole thing went down and I got kind of like highlighted as they put in the header, not running for governor and not vaccinated, I remember thinking like, one, how you can put my medical information out there?
Okay, that's another thing we can get in. And how is this legal? That
I was like, why is this even the headliner? And that actually went national. Some of my friends in DC called me and they're like, there's an article running about you on this. 2 is I did kind of feel like they were trying to make an example out of me and say, this is what you don't do. And immediately after, people wrote letters that I should resign. Mm-hmm. That I should resign, that I shouldn't be in politics, that I'm a bad example, that I'm a bad leader. How dare I do this? And bear in mind, I was COVID recovered, and I've actually had COVID twice now.
I know, and natural antibodies is 140% more effective than the vaccine.
Well, and I run every morning, but I don't really know what everyone was thinking, besides just I became this poster child for it. But all these months later, because now it's like almost a half a year past that whole thing happening, now that we have to have a booster, now that there's 2 boosters, like I think back to that and I think I'm glad that I was able to just be comfortable in my own skin, because it was a choice I made. It was a choice I owned. There was reasons why I made that choice, and I was okay to stand out. I was okay to be singled out.
It sounds like they did to you what they were trying to do to Joe Rogan recently, where it's this curated attack because you go against their narrative, right? There's no merit to anything that you or him did. I'm not talking about when he said the offensive terms, but the other things where he had like medical guests on top. And it's so obvious. It's so obvious to some people that this is a planned attack, trying to shift everybody, trying to put everybody against you, against Joe Rogan, because he doesn't agree with everything that's being said. And yeah, if you just look into these things, because I have family members on both sides, I was able to listen to both sides. I get to hear, and my grandma watches Fox News. I see everything on social media, which is all left, all like NBC, CNN, all those things. So I get to collect data here from all sides, and then when something seems a little fishy, then you look into it, right? You research. It's like, okay, why do they have these drugs that are FDA approved that were given to billions of people over the history of our time, but they're not promoting it. They're trying to stop us from getting it. Ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, monoclonal antibodies, all these things that we can use to treat COVID. But how come we don't hear about those things? Is that
how
not
come other
fishy?
countries are using those things? How come
other,
Japan is?
Yeah.
How come South American countries are? How come Central American countries are giving it out from the government?
Yeah, and where they're making it so hard now, it's you can get it so easily, but now you have to be prescribed it. You have to, I don't know. I heard that hydroxychloroquine, that's we call it doxy. We use it in Madagascar. It's a malaria preventative. But when the plague was over there, our doctors gave it to us, just in case we got the plague and other things. And it's so easy. We pop that thing like candy. Well, and now it's so hard to get.
We don't really need the government to tell us those things. I think it's that we need the government to let us make our own decisions. So if you want to make your own decision about what you think is healthy and what your primary care physician has suggested for you, you should be allowed to follow that. That's it. I really don't even care how people make their own personal decisions. I just think we're at a point where the government is too involved in our lives.
Mm-hmm. That's why less power to the government, and that's what you ran for, what you believe in, and yeah, I think that everybody just believes whatever they see on TV. That's what it is, and it's gotten to a point where it's so bad that people idolize these things. They idolize what they see on the news. They idolize the vaccine, So if I told you, like God, like you believe in God, this is the only God, all these things. And then there is some evidence that came out and said, God doesn't exist. No matter what, if there's 100% factual evidence, you wouldn't believe me, right? Because you believe what you believe. And that's kind of how it is these days. And no matter what you say, people just won't believe you. People are going to believe what they believe. They're going to stick to what they want. But the thing is, I think that's okay. I think we have to understand that that's okay for people to have different opinions and different beliefs. And it's not about trying to fight each other on it. It's just about accepting it. You believe something different. You like the Raiders. I like the Broncos. Whatever. Something like that. I'm a Saints fan, so that's just an example. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like it's gotten to a point where, again, it's so divisive where...
And the person who disagrees with you is not your enemy.
Yeah. And people could be listening to this right now. And just because we're talking about this, they could probably tune out. Or they're just like, oh, I don't want to listen to this because it's too political. Or I don't want to listen to it because it goes against what I believe. Instead of just listening and hearing and collecting data and seeing, why are they saying these things? Maybe there's merit to what they're saying,
Yep, I hear you.
Yeah, so that as a young kid, just trying to grow up and navigate through life, it makes me sad that people aren't questioning things. And I hope people are listening to this and really just, I don't know, maybe shifting their mindsets. And I'm not saying be against the vaccine, be against the government, all that things. I'm just saying feel free to question it and talk to people and have these conversations. Or else you're just going to be a sheep. You're just going to be brainwashed. There's something called mass psychosis. That's what I believe is going on right now.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I don't know. I could get in on this. Okay, so, all right. We'll shift gears a little bit and we'll start wrapping up before we get way too into this. But mahalo for sharing your opinion. Why do you think it's important to have local or Kanaka Maoli people in the office?
Oh, perspective. My background is so different than many of my colleagues. And I'm not saying it's unique to me. I just think everyone has unique background. That's it. I have a full Samoan father. He grew up kind of around the U.S. So he honestly wasn't even really raised in Samoa, but he served his mission there and he does speak Samoan now. I have a mother who's half Hawaiian, half Haole, and she grew up in LA, in Pasadena. So do their experiences affect how I see the world? Yes, absolutely. Where did I go to school? Kamehameha, BYU. Where did my children go to school? Kaiapuni. Like, so just all of these experiences just make my perspective different. Great. Awesome. Different perspective. How old are my kids? 13 and 14. Okay. Makes my perspective different. I have teenagers. Some of my colleagues are like my parents' age, right? They don't have kids in the house anymore. So different perspective. So I think that for Kanaka Maoli, or for people who are, originate and their bloodline is from Hawaii, do you have different feelings about the land, about the culture? Sure. Mm-hmm. Do we need differing opinions? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. And I know you have to go. You're super busy. So mahalo for taking the time to come on the podcast and talk stories. Couple of rapid fire questions. Favorite businesses to support here in Hawaii?
Oh, well, I like a lot of the restaurants.
Let's name some. First ones that come to
Valley
the
Health Bar is where I like to eat lunch.
That's in Aina.
This one is actually on Kinau Street.
Oh, okay.
But the owner, he's from Kuli'o'o.
Oh, okay, cool.
So he's a friend of mine. I support Missing Polynesia. Her name is Maylin. She's Samoan. She makes Polynesian clothing. I love like a lot of the trucking and recycling companies because they help me with all my trash projects.
Awesome.
So a lot of those guys have kind of ground up their businesses. I love and I support a lot of them.
Okay, awesome. All right. What is your vision for Hawaii?
Create a Hawaii where more local families can live here for generations to come.
Okay. Best podcast in Hawaii?
Oh, Hawaiiverse.
I set you up on that, but mahalo for saying that. All right, so where can we find you? What are your socials if people want to keep up with you?
So I haven't been on Facebook for like a year, but I do know that some of my feed populates into Facebook, so I think you can find some stuff there. But Instagram, at Andria Tupola. I do have a Twitter as well, at Andria Tupola, and so my website is votetupola.com for the campaign side of what I do. I do have a website at the City Council as well, councilmembertupola.com. So you can call my office if you have questions, if you're in my district, 808-768-5001.
Okay, mahalo so much. And I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'm going to let you free and we can get on with the rest of our day. But again, mahalo so much for coming on. And I'm excited for the election season to come up so I can get a lot of politicians on here and see what they promise and see if they follow through on those promises.
Thank you so much, Kamaka. Very proud of you and all that you're doing to help get the voice of the people out there.
I'm trying. You're inspiration to me, so I'm just trying to follow in your footsteps. So mahalo, Andria, for joining us on the Hawaiiverse podcast. Check us out on Hawaiiverse.com, the best place to support local. Spread aloha, be kind to one another, and mahalo for listening to us today. New episodes every Thursday, so make sure you follow us and leave a review. I'm your host, Kamaka, and you'll hear me next time on the Hawaiiverse podcast. Ahui ho.